This book was a work of love for many different reasons. It's super cathartic. I wrote it in about 3 weeks. The stories that I'm telling are stories of trans masculine individuals that are not told, while simultaneously telling the education of what it takes for trans men to actually receive rights. And on top of it, it kind of gives a manifesto of some of the things and people that I've met throughout history, especially here in LA, and some of the untold stories, some of the heroes, icons, and mentors that I've run into. That's actually what I'm talking about in my book, is kind of how the patriarchy kind of takes over spaces.
This is the Transparency Podcast Show.
Welcome back to the Transparency Podcast Show. This is a special edition episode for 2023 Pride Month. As you know, many politic issues going on, especially trans community is the target. So today I have a return guest. He is going to share us a lot of his involvement in the advocate, and then also he has a new book came out. So let me introduce you, Shane Ivan Nash.
Hey,
Hello,
Shelby.
hello. How are
How's it
you?
going? Good to see you again. Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be here and just promote stuff, and I've even
Yes,
got
you're
merch
doing very
available.
well. See, it's less than a year sitting here, and then you have accomplished so much. So let's if anyone haven't seen your episode from previous, I will put the link under the show note. But last time we were here, we were mainly talking about your case at WeHo. So is there um anything that updates, anything going on that
Well,
case?
unfortunately, I have become another statistic.
Oh.
Just like every other case that
Mm-hmm.
was in the area. Eventually, eventually, the information was submitted to the DA,
Uh-huh.
and you know, the DA rejected it, just like every other case. Not enough
Wow.
evidence, even though
Jesus.
you know there's enough evidence, but it just
Yeah.
seems to be a thing that happens, especially with trans men. I mean, if you look at what happened to Banco Brown in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
they won't even release any of the information from the Walgreens where he was shot by a security guard, and the DA refuses to look at it.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's pretty interesting how trans men are getting treated, especially by law enforcement and the
Mm-hmm.
system itself. So it's kind of why I wrote this book.
Yeah. So I think that happened for you, and then it kind of inspire you to do more this year. That's why you.
Yeah.
I want to mention we have this crown here
Yes.
because you just recently got elected for Mr. Pride, LA Pride 2023, right?
I certainly did.
Yeah, congratulations.
It was actually a group effort. I just want to say shout out to Group B on TikTok. Thank you so much for fundraising. Y'all are amazing. Just want to make sure I tip my hat to everybody that fundraised. I actually used TikTok to fundraise and was able
Wow.
to
Gee.
achieve enough to be Mr. LA and Mr. WeHo Pride, and they're going to actually ride me around in a Mustang topless
Wow.
car or convertible of some sort, and they're
Uh-huh.
going to like parade me around, and I'm gonna have to
Yes.
like touch my pearls and screw in the
Yeah, you're
light
gonna have
bulb.
to
I've
do
learned all
those.
the techniques, how to be a proper gentleman.
Yes, especially in Southern LA, I think you're the perfect, person to be. Otherwise, who else, right? So,
Right? I was born and raised here. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, being Mr. LA Pride is probably something that I didn't realize was a dream of mine, but now that I've done some of the work and I've been part of the mix of it all,
Hmm.
it feels so natural to be in this position. You're right. I love LA in so many different ways and shapes and forms, and it's a
Yes.
great to
Hmm.
represent it.
Okay, good. So now we're gonna dive into your book because
Yes.
I'm very inspired because you are doing the music, you are doing advocate for trans community, DJing, acting, and now you have this book. So
Yeah.
what inspired? I know you mentioned that your case kind of inspired you to do this to write this book, but is there any other reason? Because I kind of flipped through
Yeah.
earlier, you have so many different pictures and then also mention a lot of different trans men in
Yeah.
this book. So can you tell us about a little bit about this book?
Definitely. So for me, this book was a work of love for many different reasons. It's super cathartic. I wrote it in about 3 weeks. And the stories that I'm telling are stories of transmasculine individuals that are not told, while simultaneously telling the education of what it takes for trans men to actually receive rights. And
Mhm.
on top of it, it kind of gives a manifesto of some of the things and people that I've met throughout history, especially here in LA, and some of the untold stories, some of the heroes, icons, and mentors that I've run into. And especially, even where I grew up as a DJ at Oxwood, that's where we met.
Yes.
So I made sure to write about
Yeah,
Oxwood. And
Oxford, because we mention Hamburger Mary in this show a lot, but Oxford is actually the longest run, more longer than Hamburger Mary's at Jamie's.
yeah,
And um, I started Hamburger Mary, and then the second place is Oxford.
yeah,
So kudo to Laura G. She's the one promoting it,
shout out.
and she do it like 10 years, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was about 10
Yeah.
years.
So
Yeah,
and then I was able to meet a lot of different people on the valley side,
yeah,
and I did some events for her too, and you were the DJ. So it was very, very community oriented place.
yeah,
Yeah, but too bad the location I heard a developer bought it, and so that's why
yeah.
we stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what I'm talking about in my book is kind of how the patriarchy kind of takes over spaces,
Mm-hmm.
especially trans spaces and lesbian bars. Because for me particularly, I mean, before I identified as trans, I did have an experience as a lesbian
Mm-hmm.
living through that world. And most folks don't know this, but the Oxwood was actually one of the oldest lesbian
Yeah.
bars in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I learned my grounds as a DJ and community, and how I learned how to really be a part of the community in that way. And it was really challenging to kind of watch it fall apart in the way that it did, just purely because of finances.
Right.
I mean, I talk about it in the book. One of the
Mm-hmm.
highest grossing nights there was actually the trans night when I was a DJ. And that's when the bar made the
When I
most
was
money.
promoting, no, just
Right?
kidding.
No, no, it's okay. No, get your flowers. You deserve them. We
Thank
worked
you.
really hard on
Yeah,
that, and it
I
was a
like it. It
beautiful
was
time. I
fun.
mean,
Yes.
remember that? Like
Yes,
that
yes.
to me almost seems like a fever dream when
Yeah.
we would come out from the back patio and there'd be smoke flying everywhere, and then I would get into the DJ
Ooh.
booth and I would just play some crazy set, and it would just go from one place to the other, and we'd have such beautiful times there. And
Mm.
that's again one reason why I wanted to pay homage to a lot of the stories that built me as a trans man, while simultaneously really explaining to people what the patriarchy really has done to trans masculine individuals.
Mhm.
Because folks like myself kind of get looked at as, oh, well, he passes and he's got a wife and he does this and he's done that and he's done that. And somehow I've escaped the patriarchy. But it's really quite the opposite, because
Mhm.
I still struggle with it in ways that folks might not perceive. But as soon as I open my mouth and start telling you some of the things that I've been through, it all starts to click
Mhm.
for people, because as soon as I expose to people I'm trans,
Yeah.
all that privilege just goes right out the window. People
Oh.
automatically, I've been talked
Right.
down to like I'm a child. I've been talked down to like I don't have 20 years of experience doing certain things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I practically
Yeah.
came out of the womb as an advocate. And it's really interesting how this book, I hope, brings a conversation. And I wanted to design it, something nice like the Tom Ford book. So I put a little extra effort into it with the photos and the quality
Yes.
of it,
Yes. Very
so that
nice.
it really hits people and ends up on coffee tables and starts discussions about not just trans people, but people in general. And that's really what the conversation of the book is. I'm using
Mhm.
my identity as a trans man as a vehicle to kind of talk about the intersectionalities of society as a whole. Because trans men themselves, I mean, we face kind of the shitty end of both sticks sometimes. We've got to man up when we got to, do
Mhm.
things and have those expectations, while simultaneously we're told to sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
And that glass ceiling that everybody kind of alludes to that has been crashed is actually twice as thick. I've not broken that glass ceiling. I'm still hustling as many years as I have been to make
Mhm.
sure my bills are paid. I don't have some kingdom to sit on or some great thing. I mean, that's why I'm creating the merch that I'm creating and the
Mhm.
books that I'm creating, so that people
Yeah.
actually have tangible things.
Right.
But it wasn't an easy journey to get to that point, and it's a lot of
Mhm.
privilege, even with what I carry, and a lot of pain and a lot of suffering that I've been through. But
Mhm.
again, that's why this is really cathartic for me, that multiple things are kind of happening simultaneously, because for the last couple of years I've been through the ringer in a way that I feel like my ancestors' spirit, everyone was testing me and teaching me. I even have a new spirit guide that has been helping me, Blossom C.
Oh,
Brown.
so cute.
She's shout out. I want to make sure to shout out to Blossom because she's really been
Uh-huh.
speaking wisdom into me and guiding me. And I'm learning to be less stubborn, listen more, and
Yeah.
and just be open and receptive, because most folks don't know quite the trauma I've experienced even showing up. I mean, coming
Mhm.
from a cult as a kid through Scientology and then transitioning
Yeah.
and then trying to be in the performance world and the
Uh-huh.
activism world, and all of
Yes.
the layers that I have to face on a daily is just it's a lot of challenges. And it's just nice to be in this position where folks are seeing trans men and really giving them
Mm.
visibility. So
Yeah, and, that because we all been through some sort of transition and struggles, including myself and many other people, guests on the show.
yeah,
So I have an open mind when it comes to certain things, like politics, because I normally on this show I don't like to talk about politics because to me it's very divided
yeah,
people. But since like I mentioned in the beginning, since our community has been the target of somebody's politic agenda, so that I feel this show has to have the responsibility to speak out, to tell a story like what Shane just said, because mainstream people probably just see, oh, this person, let's say from, oh, this man just dressed this to try to go to the woman's bathroom or
yeah,
something, or maybe this man tried to go influence somebody's kids or something
yeah,
in a negative way to their eyes. So I feel just talking about the bathroom. If you're on YouTube, you can look at Shane, look at me. Let's say if Shane go to um, a female bathroom, I'm sure he might get arrested for
yeah. I mean,
for
I'd
going to
probably
the
get beat up.
yes,
And to be honest, I
right,
understand the reaction, because if you were to see a guy like me walk into the
right.
women's restroom, you would automatically assume some sort of nefarious situation.
And as me, I might get in trouble. So,
Well, for you, it's even different, because I think it's even more susceptible to violence in a different way. I think we kind of have
yeah,
our double-edged sword in
right,
the way
right.
that we'd be perceived in those moments. But either way, we'd be facing violence, the two of us.
Yeah, so that's why I feel a lot of Main Street people's perspective. They have their own belief, which okay, that's fine. I respect that, but I think they should open their zoom out and see really what's going on. They probably have an image of a trans person, what they look like, because
Yeah,
yeah, I'll probably show a text message that I have. I'm recently go on a dating site and guys who saw my picture and then they then read my profile.
yeah,
Many times happens that way. And then when I maybe try to meet and I have to making sure they know first, and then I say, really, you are trans? I cannot believe it. You used to be a man, something like that.
yeah,
And my response is, well, because our society kind of give a misimage or a misunderstanding of a trans person, woman or man, doesn't matter.
yeah,
Have a stereotype. So that means it make people only seeing you know, one side of it.
yeah,
So when it comes to politics, I just want to give it this disclaimer, okay? Because I don't want to sound because many people already kind of suggest me I should talk about politics, and I don't want to sound like contradict to myself.
yeah,
So I've been kind of mm, not battling, but kind of think, where should I take this direction? Because I certain things like I'm a pro business, I'm a pro choice, pro freedom. That may be on one side, and then but I'm also into rights,
yeah,
human rights, trans rights. Okay, So I'm kind of struggling myself. And then I all of a sudden it hits me. I said, wait a minute. Why do I have to choose one side? And this is what happened to our society. They've kind of make us to choose one side and dislike the other side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think so that's why I'm gonna proceed this more neutral way, in the middle. So back to what we're gonna talk about. Okay, so trans rights. So you see a lot of a lot of politic climax going on. Have you got any different treatments affected in your personal life?
Yeah. So right now, politics
Mm-hmm.
and legislatively, trans people are being attacked,
Right.
almost a form of legal genocide, especially
Mm-hmm.
actually trans masculine individuals. And that's kind of an unknown story that folks are not talking about because simultaneously, folks are attacking rights on HRT, access to healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
access to EMTs if we're shot, and not even giving us health, care to actually survive that gunshot wound.
Right.
Simultaneously, you're seeing rhetoric increase from certain politicians that are actually calling for things like our genocide. And then on top of it, you've got the issue of abortion rights, which most folks
Mm-hmm.
are looking at that as just cisgender women. But a lot of folks, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
actually need access to that because, especially with my incident, if I didn't have things like Plan B and the care that I needed,
Mm-hmm.
I could possibly have bled out. I could have possibly be, carrying a child right here.
Right.
There's so many different layers to what's going on legislatively, and unfortunately, because of the way that cisgender women are treated in this country, that trickles down to trans men as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that patriarchal hierarchical structure still exists within our community and as the greater world at large too. And it just seems to be quite unique because folks will tend to again look at folks like myself or other folks that are passing and
Mm-hmm.
living these lives, but they're not really diving deep
Mm-hmm.
into what's actually affecting us. And it's really unfortunate that that conversation isn't being had. And that's a big reason, another why I wanted to write this book, is to
Mm-hmm.
really bring the awareness to the layers of what trans men face. Because I know that there's so many folks out there that can even look at my life and go, well, you've got this and you've got that and you've got this. But
Uh-huh.
in reality, I'm still trans at the end of the day. There's still people
Right.
that want to harm me just because I exist, no matter what privilege or access I have. And that's kind of unfortunate because we even see folks in our own community that are kind of siding with some really unfortunate rhetoric that is really harmful to our community, in this idea that somehow it's going to prevent them from being targeted by these groups. But throughout history, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this book talks about
Right.
1933, the Sexology
Yes.
Institute in Germany. That's actually a big reason why it was released on May 6th, is because that was the day that the books were burned, and I wanted to write a book and release a book that
Mm-hmm.
same day to kind of reset the energy inertia
Right.
for our community. And all of these subject matters throughout time, we've already had them written down about where we were going, women's rights,
Mm-hmm.
trans rights, gay rights. We already had a beautiful history, and it was erased by the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing with rhetoric today is exactly the same patterns. Exactly the same. You can
Mm-hmm.
follow it so much so that we're allegedly in stage 8 of genocide right now. We're 2 steps away from folks actually. Doesn't matter if you're a trans Republican, like someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who thinks that she can avoid her privilege and access and, you know, kind of make folks feel a certain way that they're connecting with her because of her certain views. But at the end of the day, those folks are going to come for you too. They're already coming for folks
Mm-hmm.
that are in interracial marriages. They're already coming for so many different rights simultaneously. And if we actually take a look again at what happened in 1933 with the brown shirts, is what they were called, it's the same thing that's going on with these patriot guys that are, running around with masks on and harming people. And it's so concerning to me because to me, I love America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much an American.
Yes.
To a degree, even in my advocacy, I can see it as a form of serving my country with serving and fighting for rights in the
Mm-hmm.
way that I have and the
Right.
sacrifices that I've put in. Gosh, it's so much, but at the end of the day, I don't see my access to healthcare, my access to
Mhm.
employment, my access to housing as a threat to anyone else's access. I feel like somehow this narrative has been brought down onto the trans community as kind of a scapegoat, especially economically where we are now as a country. We're in a lot of dire moments. I mean, the debt ceiling, everything that's happening.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I was gonna say, seems like every time there's a election coming up, they want to target a minority group.
Yeah.
You know,
Folks that can't
yeah,
fight for
right?
themselves.
And then I think it's the purpose of doing that is redirect people's attention. Because,
Yeah.
like you say, we have debt ceiling and we have recession, we have layoff, and we might
AI is a
yeah,
threat,
AIs,
you
and the
know.
dollar might devalue, and we have foreign policy problems. See, all those
We've
people
got
don't.
Russia, we've got so many
Yeah,
different things
China.
going on, you know?
People don't
I
want
love how you
to.
said we're not gonna get political, and I just went so hard for you, huh? You're like, "I'm sweating right now. Why are you doing this to me, Shane?"
No,
This
no,
is what
no.
I do, Shelby. I've
It's
I've
good,
learned
good,
to
good, good.
start talking and tell my story because I
Yeah.
honestly you've seen me. I've been very professional and quiet for
Yes.
many years, but I've
Hmm.
also learned a lot in that position, and now I feel like it's time for us to start speaking up.
Yeah, and as I see you wearing a LA hat.
Yes, I am. I'm doing that,
Dodger.
because the Dodgers actually made the right decision, and I'm very proud of you as Mr. LA Pride. Thank you very
Mhm.
much for bringing the sisters back because I was born and raised here. I love baseball,
Mhm.
and it broke my heart to see that. And I'm so happy to see
Yeah.
that that correction has been made for our community because we want to celebrate. Look, we like hot dogs and beer too.
Right. Yeah. So, since we are on the branding or on the organization topic,
Yes.
so I want to mention about the swimming sports team. When I heard this story, and I actually on a news diet for since February, but I do, know what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, so when I saw that, the second I forgot her name, the cis woman.
I forget her name too.
Yeah, but
Don't
that
judge
woman,
me.
yeah, that is okay. But
Sorry.
that woman, that sports lady, woman came out and she was crying on TV. She was like feeling her number one, crown is got stolen, blah blah.
Yeah.
And she said she worked so hard, blah blah blah. But when I heard that, my thinking is, but the trans woman athlete also work hard. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure she did work hard too.
Yeah.
And my reaction to that is she com- they all compete together, right? If this individual is not happy with whoever in the competition, she should speak out in the beginning at the first place, not after she lost and become second place.
That's
Does that
poor
make sense?
sportsmanship, honestly,
Yes.
right there. That's literally a
Yeah.
bad loser. And I've played sports
Because
a long
yes.
time. That is
Yeah.
not how you do it at all.
Right.
Genetic testing alone when it comes to sports, and this is one thing that folks want to sit here and debate this, that, and the other about bone structure and all of that. The rigorous amount of testing that goes on to
Mhm.
put these folks into professional sports is ridiculous. I mean, they can't have certain vitamins because it'll test as they're having some sort of advantage. So
Mhm.
the fact that this individual was so upset
Mm.
just because she lost,
Yeah.
it's not that's not how sports used to run. If
Right.
anything, I mean, that's you want to talk about all American sports, what happened to being a good sport?
Mhm. Yeah, so that's what I feel people are, just follow what the news said,
Yeah.
and then they don't have their own critical thinking. See if she's not happy, should speak out in the beginning, even before the game start, not after, right?
Yeah.
And then what if she was happened to be number one? Would she be still doing this? Right?
Exactly.
So
It's selective.
yeah,
It's
so
very
that's
selective
why.
and convenient how folks are using
Mhm.
that trans identity to somehow escape any accountability when it comes to maybe their own flaws. Maybe she trained harder. You have to
Mhm.
realize as trans people, I'm sure you feel this way. I know I feel this way. Many folks I've talked to, we all feel like we have to go 10 times as hard. So it's not a
Yes.
surprise to me that trans athletes are
Yes.
excelling, but also
Yes.
you really take a look at the records,
Mhm.
trans women are actually not as excelling as much as they are. because that narrative that they're creating isn't actually true. But if you actually take a look at someone in the trans masculine community, the boxer,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? His last fight, he knocked the guy out clean. They had to stop the fight. So where's the narrative that, women are weak and they can't transition and have this,
Mm-hmm.
strength? It's all just this rhetoric that
Mm-hmm.
is causing confusion. And when in
Right.
reality, like scientifically, we were all born women at the end of the day. I mean, really, it's just some chemicals that happen in the second trimester. Some things grow, but as someone who takes testosterone, I can tell you, like, we're all pretty much the exact same thing with just different
Mm-hmm.
egos and problems that we carry. That's really what
Yeah,
it
different
is.
experience make
Yeah.
who we are. So misconception. I feel like because in Florida, the drag show community got attacked.
Yeah.
Uh, this is also, I think it's part of the misconception
Yeah.
because we both know
That's a veil.
drag people who does drag is not a identify their gender as a transgender.
No.
Yeah, they're just entertain, just like we have talk shows or comedy,
Yeah.
stand-up comedy. So
Yeah.
that's just part of the entertainment.
Mhm.
So it's kind of sad that Florida
They
happens
did
to
it
be like that.
purposefully, actually. They're doing it purposefully, legislatively. If you really take a look at what's going on in the politics, the
Hmm.
way things are being presented and the way that there's a certain agenda to get onto the school boards, to get into certain areas that they didn't used to touch, now all of a sudden
Yeah,
they're getting in those areas.
right.
They're creating these narratives that are completely not true about our community, while
Hmm.
simultaneously creating and stoking fear to make it seem like
Right,
we're doing something when in
right.
reality
We're
we're like 0.1% of the population.
exactly.
And the fact that you have to realize even Tennessee is spending the money they're
Uh-huh.
spending to legislate maybe 3 people in the state, while
That's
there's,
not gonna change
issues when
any
it comes to
different.
housing,
Right,
employment,
exactly.
roads that are, need resurfacing. There's
Yes.
so many more important things that
Yes.
these politicians could
Right.
actually be doing with their time, and they're not. They're
Mhm.
finding everything they can to
To
distract and push it onto minority communities. And
mhm.
unfortunately, because the trans community doesn't have even the support within its own community of the LGBT as a whole, because white supremacy is really interesting how it kind of plays out in our community, especially cis white gay men. Yo, oh yeah, I'm saying it, Shelby.
Okay.
I wrote it in the book, so
Uh-huh.
it's already in there too.
Alright.
But the way that that power structure and their proximity to white supremacy and how they kind of navigate within the community,
Mhm.
it's like, I'll do this, but I can't do this. I'll do that. I can't support this community because then it will take this. And it always
Oh.
involves money. It's
Mm.
really just kind of gross at the end of the day because, you know, that 70 cents to the dollar that women allegedly are making to the $1 of the male, that hierarchy structure, that patriarchal structure bleeds within to the LGBT community. And it's time
Mhm.
that we actually really address it. And,
Right.
I got a few chapters for you to read at the end of the book if you need any questions on what that looks like. And, you can always reach out to me on Instagram too if you have any questions.
Yes, we will. But this last time I checked, just right before the show, this book is out of stock right now.
It's out of stock, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how can people order?
So the 26th, it should be back in stock, is what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually go onto Amazon real quick, type in Shane Ivan Nash, my full
Mm-hmm.
name, and there should actually be some music available and the book available. You can get it on Kindle. I have the hard copy version here available.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one feature I wanted to let folks know, if you actually, for some reason, get to meet me in person at the very end of the book, I don't know if we can see it in the camera, hopefully. But I made sure to put a signature line there because I want to meet people that actually read the book and
So
have
so
discussions
can
with
you
them.
sign for our show?
I can sign for your show.
Huh?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
and we're gonna put it as part of our
Yes,
decoration. Is that okay?
of course, of course.
And I know you do a lot of things like musicians, DJ, advocate, and now author.
Yeah.
Do you have room for one more position? And this too. One more room because
Someone on city staff said maybe I should run for city council. So maybe I might do that. And another thing about this book, this is a
hmm
feature that I really do love. So I am a cannabis connoisseur. I do love some cannabis, and the old wives' tale of watching Wizard of Oz and
Uh-huh.
listening to Dark Side of the Moon, how it kind of syncs up together.
Yeah.
So with this particular book, there's actually a playlist on Spotify that I timed out perfectly so that when you read the book, you can listen to the music and it just goes with it
Wow.
in that same
So
kind of
good.
fashion and kind of adds an element. Because my
Mm-hmm.
hope is to either turn this into a documentary or maybe even into a film on just discussing it and some of my life history with LA and just some of the cool people that I've
Mm-hmm.
met.
So, I was gonna ask you something
Yes.
because this show is about trans community, some or anything related to trans, and I feel you mentioned about Invisible Man, so I would like to invite you to become our guest host.
I am
If
so
you're
excited for that. You have no idea. First of all, the setup here is amazing. I love the temperature in the room. It's perfect. Joke to the sound guy. um, and I love working with you and having this discussion and
Thank
kind
you.
of elevating our community and really bringing folks forward because I feel like this is a discussion we need to have right now. And I want to do it
Yeah.
professionally. And like you said, neutrally. I know a lot of people see trans folks kind of sit into the idea of running to the Democratic Party, which to a degree we have to because they do vote in certain ways we do. But even myself,
Hmm.
I find myself sometimes in the middle because of the way that we're treated and
Right.
put in the middle of things, but we don't actually get real services. So if there's, the left or the right, if they actually want to start being held accountable and actually show
Right.
up for the trans community, maybe those decisions can change. But right now, I am blue leaning just because of everything that's going on. I think
Hmm.
it's important to vote that way. But, it always opens room for discussion for folks that are making even mistakes and holding them accountable within our own community because we
Yeah.
can all do better.
Yeah. At the end of the day, trans or not trans, straight or not or gay, we all pay taxes, right? So
Exactly.
we have our rights. We should be all united together.
Right.
Otherwise, the
Representation or taxation without representation is like, you know, in the Constitution. So we've got to actually have the representation of trans folks and that access. And, like I said, we work 10 times as hard. We have to as a community. And I feel like
yes.
if we put more trans people in positions, especially
Hmm.
in society, I think we could do a little bit better with some solutions. I can see kind of two sides of things because I've walked in both bathrooms. I know which one, they both need work in different ways,
Yeah,
right?
same here.
We can attest to those type of things and we can do, build better bathrooms for everyone, that could be our first cause.
Yeah.
Toilet paper always stocked,
Oh,
like
right. And especially sometimes it is the neutral bathroom.
yeah.
And when let's say man goes in and use the toilet, they usually have to see up and then put it down.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. To me, it's kind of gross. So,
No, but what I will tell you is I've been using a lot more gender neutral bathrooms lately
uh-huh.
because they're in like West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I
Yeah.
kind of like it. And here's why.
Why?
Because I think people now have to like face each other a little bit more. So like the bathroom is clean. So like if a cute boy goes in behind you, you have to like make sure you didn't pee on the toilet. And I'm telling you, I feel like it's cleaner because everybody's like more intermingling with the same toilet. So there's more
Hmm.
accountability there. Like, oh, John just walked out. We know he just pissed all over the floor.
Oh my
Like,
god.
like I don't know. I'm kind of finding the silver lining to it because I know a lot of folks have fear in it.
Uh,
But it seems to be, an interesting new territory that we're discovering. It feels cleaner to me. I feel like it smells less even.
yeah. Okay. So we're gonna end the show here, and if anybody have any comments or any show ideas, because Shane gonna join this show, and he's gonna bring his side of friends or guests that he know, especially trans man community, and then we'll that's make the show more fulfill for full circle, right?
Yeah,
So I thank you
of
for
course.
coming to the show, and we look forward for your hosting of the show in next season.
And
Okay,
and
thank
also
you.
stay tuned. Look for me in LA Pride and WeHo Pride. They're going to drive me in a little car. It's going to be
Yeah,
cute. And follow me on TikTok, Shane Ivan Nash. I go live almost every night. So look forward to see you all.
thank you.